some stuff around. New edition. What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So when it comes to Duke's projection out of the ACC of teams who can win the national championship betting wise, they are considered the number one team out of that conference to win it, just because I guess they will beat up on the competition and have a better overall record, so it'll be easier for them, or an easier path at least, to get into the national championship game. So hopefully that is true. You never know, because North Carolina does have a couple good guys coming back at least, but overall they don't have that good of a team, and the other teams as well I don't think are as great in the ACC, but like I said, you just never know. Then the Anaheim Ducks signed two pretty good players, especially on the offensive side. Once free agency started, they went after, they did get it. I guess he must be really good even though he's a little bit older, but they spent a 5-year deal on him in the center, Ryan Strome. Never really heard of him. I think he was from the New York Rangers. I could be wrong, but if you're giving a guy a 5-year deal at that age, he must be doing some good stuff. So overall, I guess this is a good signing. And then they also signed another center slash winger so he could play on the outside if you need him, in Frank Vatrano. Never heard of him as well, but let's hope they made some good selections here to give these newer contracts to these guys who they can at this moment, because they don't have to pay their younger guys at the moment as well. So we'll see what they can do. Then ex-New Orleans Saints coach Sean Payton, who's been recently retired and hasn't been coaching, but he recently did an interview saying that if he were to come back, he would be interested in, I think it was Miami, Dallas, and of course the Chargers job. But from what I've seen the first year and a half of Brandon Staley being the head coach for the Chargers, I don't think he should be considered, that is Payton, to be the next head coach, because Staley's doing a hell of a job at the moment, and he's just barely going in to his second season as well, and it's already looking promising. So overall, I don't care if he is interested in the Chargers job, he should not get it, in my opinion. And then Mike Farrell, a recruiting expert online for high school students of football going into college. He might be my favorite recruiting analyst now, because he's finally said what I've been trying to think about, what this Arch Manning kid is, who is, I believe, the nephew of both Peyton and Eli Manning, who he's not like their child, one of their children, but he is getting all this recognition, being considered like a 5-star player, this once-in-a-generation type of dude, even though it's just a name on his back, and he hasn't really done anything. And Farrell pretty much made a statement that was heard by everybody else, saying that if it wasn't for the name on the back of his jersey, he might just be considered a 3-star overall prospect instead of a 5-star, which I always figured that the stars really don't mean nothing a lot of the times, because it's really just based on how many times you get recruited, how many offers you get as far as scholarships to those schools, and then how good you do on those other circuit things if you're invited to the Elite 11 or certain 7-on-7 tournaments, which a lot of guys don't get the opportunity to be able to bolster up their numbers. But yeah, he said all that stuff, and even when looking back at his couple of playoff appearances in high school, he said that whenever it became a game that was against a better competition, he was really bad, like he sucked tremendously. So he doesn't know what other people are seeing. Obviously, it's just fun because he is committed to go to Texas, so I'm a little bit more happy about that, because he could struggle out there, but you just never know. They might have some good players around him and to make him look somewhat competent. Then Justin Herbert of the Chargers, I believe he has the 5th best odds according to this Vegas betting thing to win the NFL MVP this season coming up. I mean, I think his team will be better. He probably won't have to put up as many good numbers as MVPs do because his defense should be good. So he probably won't be out there as much, and there might be scores on defense as well, or really short fields, so there could be a run for a touchdown or stuff like that. So I don't think he is going to win it eventually, but if he has a good enough year and the Chargers defense steps up, they should have a pretty good spot in the tournament or the playoffs. So overall, a lot of high hopes for the Chargers from me. Then when it comes to the NBA, apparently according to Commissioner Silver, they are thinking about putting down the age when it comes to entering the NBA from 19 to 18. And I believe that won't go into effect until the CBA that they're discussing right now is done, I think, in 2023, 2024, after that season. So in a couple years. But as of right now, it won't affect Duke or USC's players that are going in as of this second. But for future guys who are like freshmen, sophomores, and juniors in high school, it could affect those guys if they want to just automatically go up to the NBA or not, and not go to college for a year or so. I always thought like they should be able to get drafted, kind of like how MLB players and NHL players do, where they get drafted and they can decide if they still want to stay at a college or anywhere else or go overseas and stuff like that, and then be able to come back. I know the overseas players do that when they get drafted in the NBA. They usually don't come right away unless they're really good, talented players, but most of them just stay, drafted by that team and come back a year or two, a year, 1 or 2 seasons after they get drafted and start playing for that team that drafted them. So I think it gives them more flexibility if they do that, but I don't know. I think they're just trying to get all these young guys in there who might think they're underqualified and get over there, and they might be overrated. Have too many young guys who didn't go to college when they probably should have for a season or two to get in a better situation, but you just never know. So we'll see. I know they've been wanting to expand to at least another 2 teams in the NBA, so that could be the reason why as well, if in the near future that ends up happening. But, overall, who knows really. Then G.G. Jackson, who was a pretty recent commit to North Carolina, he was I think it was the number 1 rated player in 2023. I could be mistaken, but he signed there, or said he was going to go there, and then all of a sudden he decides to decommit the other day, and ends up choosing South Carolina. He's going to enroll immediately, I believe is what he said. And I don't know, I just thought it was a great thing to talk about because North Carolina lost out on a number 1 player, and he's going to a rival within the Carolinas, not coming to Duke, but to see them get gutted from one of the better players is always nice in my opinion. Then speaking of a better future about USC and Texas, this article I put up, obviously I'm biased, so I'm going to pick USC, but I just think trying to trust a guy in Steve Sarkisian, who was once a USC coach, and he was great as a USC assistant coach, but when he was a head coach, he had, drinking problems and all that stuff. He got that all figured out, and he's better now, but while he was at USC on top, he, didn't do well. So kind of just think it's not going to come back where he's going to have a drinking problem again. Just overall trying to get the better prospects and better coaches to come there and teach those guys. I think USC has a better future in that, and plus they're getting a lot more talented, higher rated players as of this second compared to Texas. So overall, obviously I'm picking USC, but we'll see what the future holds for Texas. Then Austin Rivers, ex-Duke player, signed a 1-year deal with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Looks like he's going to get some playing time since they traded away Patrick Beverly and a couple other guards up there as well. So that's good for him at least, so good luck to him. Then USC football added a future scheduled home opponent to play in LA, and I believe that's in the year 2027, and it's against UNLV, which they recently played a couple years ago, which was kind of a letdown just because they barely won, and UNLV is not the greatest team. Even later that year, UNLV did not have a good record, so it was just obvious that it was Clay Helton and the coaching and all that stuff. But overall, this should be a big-time victory for USC in the future if Lincoln Riley is still there. And the Orange County Register did a thing about pro sports where which state is the place where they make the most money or the most making opportunities for those pro sports teams, and of course it was California. I just think because they have so many sports teams, they have like four baseball teams. MLB, they have at least 4 to 5 NBA teams, 2 LA Lakers and Clippers. So they have a lot of guys who can make big contracts, and that kind of pushes the numbers up. I don't know how the taxes work compared to here in New York, because New York is always considered, like the Knicks are considered the most highest team to buy if you wanted to buy them, like over $3 or $4 billion worth. So I don't really get how that works. But overall, once again, it's always Cali number one, so we gotta accept that. Then the Lakers ended off their summer league with a couple of victories. They weren't able to get into the finals, but at least they went off on a good note. They did beat the New Orleans Pelicans 102-94 in their second to last game, so that was nice. And they played Dallas, ended up getting that victory 95-84. Overall, the guys were okay, especially the younger guys. Scottie Pippen Jr. was on a two-way deal, seemed okay, but of the two-way guys or any of the guys that played, it looks like Cole Swider, the other two-way guy from Syracuse, is going to end up maybe getting a regular contract to be on the team, so they could give a two-way to someone else like a Jay Huff or Javante McCoy, who played well. But most of those guys will be going to the South Bay G League Lakers team or whatever it's called. But yeah, Swider proved that he's a pretty good three-point shooter, especially in the NBA, and could do stuff off the dribble as well. So I will not be surprised if he's upgraded to a regular deal. Then Isaiah Mobley he's an ex-USC guy with Cleveland. He finished off his summer league with a pretty good game, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists as well. So he proved that he can still be a bench guy coming off there for the Cavaliers for this season upcoming. So hopefully he just gets some playing time up there. And then Jack White, the ex-Duke player from a couple years back, who's been in Australia because that's where he's from, but did get a chance to play with Denver and made the most of it because he was able to get a fully guaranteed two-way deal. So congrats to him, and hopefully he can turn that into a regular contract. Then Malachi Nelson, the USC quarterback, coming in next fall, not this year. He was at the Under Armour Future 50, which is kind of like a Elite 11 deal with a lot of the top recruits going down there and stuff, a competition. See how good they are, and apparently he earned the MVP honors out there, which is always nice. And he also had his running mate, who the five-star, well, now a newly five-star, Zachariah Branch, who was playing with him on his team, the wide receiver from Las Vegas, was down there as well. So they were hooking up nicely and pretty cool. And as of that performance, I guess he is now officially a five-star. Everybody was calling him that. They knew he had good enough talent, but I guess after this competition, he was able to boost himself up there officially, which will make USC's numbers good overall too. Then Russell Westbrook and the Lakers, they're talking about the split between those two might be imminent, just because recently Russell Westbrook let go of his agent, who he was with for like 14 plus years, and a lot of people are talking within the Lakers organization that he's pretty much difficult to deal with and all this stuff. But overall, I just think it's going to be tough because they had chances to trade him, from what I heard, and they never did. And the only team that could probably make a trade who's willing to lose this season coming up is the San Antonio Spurs. But overall, I still don't think they're going to do it because he might end up playing well for them, or they could just trade for him and, you know, cut his contract in half and agree to a buyout. You never know. But overall, I just think the Lakers are going to be stuck with Westbrook unless they can make a deal with him with a buyout, and probably have to pay him, you know, $20-25 million for this year for him to get off the team instead of his $40+ million that he's projected to get. And to finish off this video, yes, Duke made a home-and-home series deal with Arizona, who's one of the better college basketball teams out there. We've had a long history always playing in the tournament, a lot of good games as well. But I believe that series starts in 2023 and 2024. So 2023 they'll play at Duke, and 2024 they'll play in Arizona. It's always good for the top programs to play each other. More than just having one of those games a year, you have multiple games to show how good your team is and see how good they are, be able to go far in the tournament. So I like what the new head coach, John Shire, is doing, because Coach K kind of really didn't do that as much. They might have played one or two of those big games, but even this season coming up, Duke has quite a handful of really top talented teams they're playing. So definitely looking forward to that. Thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.